Yo, what's going on, guys? We're going to be taking a look at a Oceanic Amumu player who is in bronze. Interesting skin. I don't think I've ever seen this one before. I do like your setup. Whenever you are playing below Diamond Elo, running for cheese is extremely effective to guarantee your fights and scuttle fights and that type of stuff. Also, anything lower than platinum in particular, most junglers are running around with below half health, so by having that ignite, you're just helping to guarantee that fight that much more. You're up against a Kindred. Honestly, a terrible matchup for Amumu if she were any good, but she's bronze. If she was any good, she could dodge all your Qs with her dash. She would just hold on to it, and then she would Giga Shred you. Amumu's not particularly in a great spot right now. He's still good for beginners or noobs because he's so straightforward, but in terms of like being objectively strong, he's just not there. But regardless, I do like the runes you took. They make a lot of sense. Your ignite makes a lot of sense. Awesome job getting the ward down and then resetting. The only thing I will say is you usually want to ward the opposite side. That's the main function of it, is to know whether or not you're getting invaded. So you should have just stood here or right here, laid your ward, reset from here instead, and then you would know if they invaded you. This ward's still giving you value, but not near as much of knowing if they start on your red buff or invade it. Remember, you're just trying to ward opposite sides, so just have better information rather than, like, if you think about it, what are the odds of a Nasus Kindred invading you level 1 top side? The odds of them actually coming here, level 1, are very low compared to Thresh and Kindred pushing up with an Ashe bot side. Just something to think about. Red Smite, I don't mind it. Blue Smite does make it way easier to land your Qs on Amumu. Taking W is fine level 1, especially against single target monster camp, since your E will be on a really long cooldown. The main thing I'll say about your level order is you max Q first, which isn't necessarily optimal because it doesn't help your clear, and it doesn't put it on a low enough cooldown to where you'll be able to... Nice job pulling, that was really sweet. I don't think I've ever seen a bronze player pull like that. Nice job. So yeah, even if you max your Q first, you won't be able to use your Q more than twice in a gank, right? Because the cooldown's too long to use it more than twice. So that's one of the main issues with maxing it first. Plus, like I said, it doesn't really speed up your clear since it's single target. You're usually looking to do an E-max on Amumu and then max Q second, because by that time you're doing more team fights and it becomes more prevalent for it to come back up after your 2 uses of it. Walk up, use your E immediately. You're moving in between your attacks. Pretty solid out of a bronze player. Yep, just Q over the wall. Beautiful. Very nice. You're going to do the same thing to red buff. Just pop right over. Should have just Q'd over. Would save yourself 3 or 4 seconds of walking. I guess you wanted to save it for your Krugs. I think it would have been up by then. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Not bad. You are missing a lot of health though. That's one of the downsides of getting a bad leash or starting W. Something I would recommend instead of getting a single person leash on Amumu is just solo start on wolves or raptors instead. That way your laner can get the lane on time and the enemies won't know where you started, because as Amumu, raptors or wolves, initial start is fine. Just start E in that case. But like I said, starting with just single person leash with W, you take so much damage that now, even at the end of your clear, you're missing so much health. It's just not a great situation for you to be in. You're lucky your mid laner is roaming. I have no idea why he's helping you. This is bronze, but I guess Malzahar's on something else too. Nice job. You see Kindred's there. You can feel good resetting. She's going to waste her time. She's only level 3. You can look for the reset. First item back, you got double ruby crystal. The only thing I would say about that is getting boots is more important than a ruby crystal, unless you plan on just straight up invading the enemy jungler and fighting them to the death. But for ganks, having boots is way more important for landing skill shots and also closing distance than a single ruby crystal. Next time, get boots, control ward, and a ruby crystal instead. Because this isn't going to be speeding up your clear or anything. This just gives you more health. It doesn't really help you. Now, if you could have gotten a full Balmy Cinder, that would be a different story, because that would actually speed up your clear. Going back into the full clear is fine. You look at the 2 closest lanes. Vex not gankable. Nasus isn't gankable. It's pretty standard, just full clear into gank on a champion like Amumu. You've already built up a CS lead on Kindred. You're 1 camp ahead, about to be 2 camps ahead. Plus, you have item advantage. So you're positionally in a much better spot than she's at right now. This reminds me of that Digimon Popmon thing. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. That's what the skin looks like. Smite the big one. Nice, nice, nice. You waited till you took some damage. Very cool. This is a great gank situation. Look at the 2 closest lanes. These guys are shoving up. Just come in behind. Turn on your sweeper. Literally everything I'm about to say, you're just doing it. Oh, man. Yeah, that's fine. Since you didn't have flash or anything, you just raw queued. You assumed his flash was down, and it was. I wouldn't be afraid of stealing kills on Amumu. Champions like Amumu and Sejuani, or even Rammus, if they get gold, they can do quite a bit of good with it compared to like a Senna having it. If the only time I 100% gonna give the kill to the AD carry is if it's like a Draven. If it's a massive snowball all-in style AD carry like Draven or Triss. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry about taking it. Especially because you're running the Conquer, Ignite, Carry, Amumu setup. If you had Aftershock, that would be a different story. Because your damage scaling is only going to get so high. You have mid prio. You're looking to invade here. This is a little bit bad just because if Thresh gets here, then these guys can reinforce first. So if your bot lane doesn't move here, don't feel like you have to get a kill. Plus your smite isn't up, so this situation is it's a lot of risk, and you don't have smite, so you're probably not even going to get it. I would definitely just leave. Most likely she's going to have smite. She does. Now what that did was not only did you waste time, but now they know you're there. So just think about it that way. Now Nasus can play more aggressive, X can play more aggressive, and now their bot lane knows they should play safe. But regardless, Thresh is going in anyways. I would have queued immediately while he's still stunned, just to guarantee the land. You wait a little bit after, a little bit more risk there. You queue back on him again. You guys don't quite have the damage. Now that you have your R, you can do a lot more. You never want to reset when your R is up, so instead you'd probably look for a dive here. When you're backing on your R is really unfortunate because you can just go use it, reset, and by the time you leave base, it's pretty much already halfway come back up. You might as well just go use it. Run her down. Don't queue immediately. Just get as close as you can first. Here you do because you're afraid she's going to jump over the wall, which is valid. If she didn't have a wall jump, you should have just walked her down and taken the sharper angle to cut her off. But since she did have a wall jump, that early Q was fine. Hopefully you knew you couldn't kill her. I would look for an R gank. Probably can't get the Nasus in time, and he's out of mana. You're looking to do Dragon. This is not a good decision because your bot lane's resetting here. Before you do objectives, you need to check what your teammates are up to. Right now, you're fighting one of the hardest dragons in the game, which is Ocean Dragon. Its attacks literally slow you. This would be very hard to disengage from. Imagine if Ashe and Thresh rotated. Plus, you already know Kindred was in the area. So this is just a very dangerous situation. You're already ahead. You're ahead in CS. You're heading kills and assists, and your R is up. Now is not the time to do Dragon. If your bot lane rotated, I'd be okay with it because at least you have your R to turn the fight. This is just a lot of risk. Once again, we're backing with our R. I would have just ran straight to blue Gromp into this. Looks like you're going straight to this. Now that Kindred's dead, you would basically examine it and see, oh, there's only a blue buff, so her red buff's still up. Because you guys cleared bot to top. You could tell based off of where the people leashed. I'll actually back up real quick just in case you don't understand how that works. So we are at the 914 right now. First of all, really anything below platinum jungle, people start with their bot lanes for the best little leash possible. I'm a little surprised you didn't. I assume you did it because you wanted to gank for a Senna Leona lane because it has a lot of CC. And that's the only reason why, because you don't have to start blue buff on Amumu. You can sustain your mana the whole way through with just your jungle item. So at this point, you're just looking on the minimap to see who gets to lane first. You see Nasus gets to lane first, and you see he gets there from the standard position. So that means he probably didn't leash. And you see their bot lane's still missing, right? They're still missing, still missing, still missing. You're only looking for the little pitchers, and then you see their pitchers coming from the river area. So you're 99% sure she started bot side. So based off of that, you're going to consistently know that her stuff is going to spawn bottom to top. So you know her red buff's up right now. Let's go back a little bit. Well, what happened? Okay, here we are. Vex has blue buff. Malzahar flash Rs. You Q at a decent time. You probably didn't need to R there because you had second Q charge. When you examine Vex's items, you would have seen she didn't even have tier 2 boots. So there's really no way she was going to get away. That's the only thing I think you could have really done meaningfully different here. I also would have Q'd onto her, auto attack, then E'd. Using E is kind of like an auto attack resetter. But the R itself, look how far away she is from the walls. It's going to take her at least a second and a half to get close enough to a wall to flash if you do believe her flash is up. So I would just say preemptive. The R was too early. The only way this would make sense is if she was closer to the wall, and that's it. Because even if she had tier 2 boots and you had no boots, you still had time to react to her since she was so far away from the wall. Also, Sork Shoe Rush, it's a little dicey on Amumu. This game, I think you can get away with it because you're ahead, but generally on Amumu, you're going to want to go Merc Treads or Plated Steel Caps. You look at their team, Nasus is 80 auto attack base, Ashe is 80 auto attack base, so is Kindred. So they're really triple 80 auto attack base, and their only mage is the Vex. So you could have gone Merc Treads to block out CC like Thresh Hook, Ashe R, Ashe slows, Vex Fear, Kindred slow, Nasus slow. So that's the argument for Merc Treads. Or you could have gone Plated Steel Caps because they're triple auto attack base there. So something to think about. Sork Shoes are going to get very, very minimal value because Thresh is going to grab magic resist. So is the Nasus, guaranteed. They're both going to pick up magic resist, making the Sork Shoes flat base penetration do essentially nothing. All right. You're fighting it out, standing there. It makes sense. You're fighting 2 versus 1. Hopefully you wouldn't try to do that by yourself. If you're fighting a real actual champion as Amumu, a real bruiser style fighter like Darius, Garen, and Nasus, you're never going to win that solo to the death if they're relatively equal items to you. Amumu is mainly just for his simplicity and for his CC. Zac is a much better scaling version of Amumu. He's a little bit slower paced for his first 3 levels. After his first 3 levels, though, he's just substantially better than Amumu. Going for Herald is a great option since their top laner is dead. This made a lot more sense than that one dragon play. And immediately upon getting Herald, you look for a 2-plate turret, 5-plate, 5-plate, 5-plate. So moving back into your jungle is totally fine here, especially since your R's down. And you didn't see an easy gank, plus Malzahar R's on cooldown. Taking Blue Gromp same time, I like the thought process there. Makes a lot of sense. Killing from camp to camp looks good. Just keep using Q on every camp. Probably would have gone to red buff there. I guess Malzahar's up, so you're looking for it. Yep, work the corner. Q'd a little on the early side. That's all right. Nice, nice, nice. This really looks like at least gold. This doesn't look like bronze at all to me. It's really weird. Now you would stay in chop 3 plates, then Herald. There's no reason to back here. You have a cannon wave. And if you can get down to 2 plates right here, you can get down to 2 plates and a sliver. You can drop Herald. That's first turret gold and a bunch of plate gold. The game would basically be over at that point if you don't die from there on out. Kindred showed up. I don't know if you knew she was coming. If she did, she wouldn't have been able to kill you, but you would have had to back off since you're so low on health. Nice job saving your second Q charge. That way you can go from camp to camp. Nice, nice, nice. I would smite it. 900. Especially since you knew Kindred was in the area, I think you might as well just smite this. Right now your R's up, and Dragon's coming up, so it's probably the best not to back right now. Malzahar R's on cooldown, but it's about to be up. You have a lot of plays you can make bot mid right now. They already know you're in the area. Oof. There's just no reason to queue there. If they don't know you're there and you're pretty sure they don't know you're there, they're going to walk into you. Your Q is more than just a stun, it's also a gap closer. So if they're going to close the gap for you, you might as well hold on to it, especially if your teammate's out of range to help initially. So here, Malzahar's not in range. You should have just walked further along the bush and then queued the Thresh. Now, if Malzahar was already in the bush in range, this would be pretty much fine. But once again, Thresh is closing the distance for you because this isn't warded. Nice double R. You're hitting them both with your W. Good job focusing down Kindred. That way she can't R at the end. Very nice. And nice. Double kill. They got you, though. And I absolutely guarantee it. If you did not have Sork shoes, you 100% would have lived there. If you either had Merc Treads or plated steel caps. 100%. Probably Merc Treads in particular. We just lost some shutdown gold. Kind of unfortunate. I don't know if you need... Did you need to lay that Herald there? I'm pretty sure it's like 4 minutes. So yeah, you have... okay, it was about to fade, actually. I guess we picked it up a while ago. That's fine. Nice job. Nice job not forgetting. Big fight going on down over here. Plus dragons up. You went for the mark first. Malzahar is giving you guys so much pressure. He's able to roam so much, and he's ahead in CS. He's being super pivotal. There's 2 of them mid. I wouldn't fight this at all. There's no point. That's one of the downsides to laying Herald so deep, is the enemies have, or I should say so preemptively, the enemies have so much time to react to it that they just end up posting up. That's why it's best to use Herald after you kill the enemy and then push down turret once it's around 2.5 plates. There's no way you can fight this. I wouldn't even cover this, and there's no reason to show yourself. It's just going to make it easier for the enemies to play. I would let Nasus leave while you do Raptors and maybe kill Vex, or I would go bot lane, set up Dragon. Kindred's dead right now, and so is the Thresh. I think this is just like an obvious go start Dragon. Your team will be there in a moment. There's just no you don't want to show it. First of all, you're showing yourself as jungler when you know you can't get a kill. Wait, are Raptors up there? Oh, yeah, we already took those. Never mind. I was going to say, if Raptors were up, we could queue away. If we had Nimbus Cloak, we could run away. Wow, you lived. That's incredible. I'm happy that you lived, but there's nothing to gain here. We knew we couldn't get the kill. Even if we wanted to catch the wave, we could have waited behind the turret for it to crash. We didn't need to walk the way we walked. It was just, there was so much risk and there was no reward. We've got to try to avoid those type of situations. No reward, high risk situations are, well, what'll keep you losing games. They actually ended up getting Dragon off that when you have such a juicy lead. It's unfortunate. Wait, your R's up. Why are you running away from this fight? So the enemies killed 2 of them. I guess that's why you run. Nasus TPs. That's a good call. Just keep farming. Wait for your teammates to come alive. You see Kindred's bot side and dead. I would just push into your jungle here. You can, for a play on Vex, try to come up from behind. It makes it a lot easier to close distance and land Qs if you have the behind angle, because there's inherent pressure on them to get past you rather than to juke you. Because here you have no pressure. She just runs away from both of you at the same time rather than being pinched. She probably could have lived if... she probably could have saved Flash if she just ran this way rather than that way, because he had a slight angle cut off on that. Is what it is. Next time, just come up deeper from behind if you have the time and if you have the space to do so. It makes it so much easier than cutting it as tight as possible. Feel free to smite those, or at least smite her for extra damage. I'd go for either one here is fine. When you're tanking, I know this isn't the situation because you guys are obviously hard winning the fight, but if you are tanking, it's always okay to walk closer to your teammates to force them to chase than standing still if you feel like you're taking too much damage. A lot of the times tanking isn't just about taking damage, it's also about forcing them to move, enemies to move a certain way. And so instead of attacking, they're having to chase type thing. Kind of like Singe. Singe is very, very tanky, not necessarily because of his tank stats, but because people are having to chase him, and while chasing, they're not actually doing any meaningful damage. Vex really went in there. I'm starting to see the bronzeness. The most bronze thing I'm seeing this game is just people randomly going in. Just one at a time. Guess that's what makes Amumu so good in this elo. I will say you do a great job going from camp to camp with your Q. It's a really nice feature. Demonic, super aggressive secondary item to get on Amumu. You could always flex into something tankier like a Dead Man's Force of Nature second item, or Thornmail is usually the most optimal against heavy self-healing teams. Like Nasus loads his self-healing on his item and his passive. Ashe loads his self-healing. You may have felt like your team didn't have enough damage, so you had to go Demonic. Personally, since you have shutdown gold, I would have leaned more into Thornmail because I wouldn't want to die. I'd rather get the armor from it. Funny enough, I think Demonic gives more HP than Thornmail, which is really sad. Your art is up. You could play this terrorist right here. You could play up on this raised area. They won't be able to see you, and then you can go in if you're waiting for your teammates to follow you up. Plus your teammates are all here, or you could wait in this bush. I would work along the wall. Definitely pop sweeper. You need to start clearing out vision. You guys definitely win team fights. Oh wait, Jax is dead. When did he die? Did he just die? Okay, now I can see why you're not taking the fight. All right, I'm trolling you. So you're waiting for the Jax. Even though Jax isn't here, they're separated enough you might be able to go in on this. There's certainly no rush. You can just wait for dragon fights. The easiest way to win games on teamfight style champions like Amumu or Zac is just wait for dragons, get soul, then you just win the rest of the team fights and end the game. You don't have to play frontline on Amumu like this in terms of literally standing with your frontline. If you already have at least one tank on your team, you can come from the side to get a flank. Especially if you know you win the team fight. Now, if you feel like they're going to dive you guys because you guys are behind, then sure, play like this. Or slightly hide off to the side so you can go in. But you're never going to... You shouldn't be able to go in like this because they'll just back up. If they're actually standing up too far, they have no turret. I feel like that's one bad thing about low elo is a lot of you are doing the right things and a lot of you doing the wrong things, and since were doing the wrong things, they're reinforcing a bad habit. So like same thing when you're ganking Vex mid lane, instead of just coming up from behind over here, you came from this bush instead and the gank didn't pan out. It's the same thing here. Realistically, we should have just gone around. We already know we're gonna win the team fight and then we can get a big deep flank, but Thresh just ends up being a goofball. You land Q into R, whip out your E. That's pretty much a game over. Nice job. After that, you want to stay with the wave, particularly when there's a cannon minion, and you guys should grab her. You just kill her immediately. The second you start tanking, Leona is going to follow it up, and she's not going to be able to play the game, and you could take probably 6 or 7 turret shots. Yep, just go in. QE. Leona's really bad reaction time. She gets pushed off. Probably shouldn't fight Nasus under the turret, though. He's a little bit tankier. Great dragon call since there's multiple of them dead. Very, very nice. Third item, you are now going for the Thornmail. I like it. Thornmail super, super important this season and last season. There's so much self-healing in the game. Healing in general, you just have to have that form of heal cut. Your teammates stay to fight the fight. You Q in, you miss. You have to wait for the second Q. Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. If you're already in range of multiple, just go ahead and press R. You don't even need to Q. And then you can Q after the R. Nice. Really solid, man. Really, really solid. After you get inhibitor, you guys could definitely reset. Doing Baron here is a little bit risky because you don't have super minion yet. After you break inhib, you have to wait for the next respawning wave. So doing Baron right here would be bad. Instead, you need to reset, kill Nasus, or pinch him here. Just don't start Baron. You go in for the deep pinch. Don't quite catch him. Take the blue and the Gromp while you're waiting for next fight and for your R to come up. Always wait for your R to come up for true team fights on Amumu. Never go in pre-R. Try to build a flank instead of coming in from the front. Coming in from the front relies on them to make a mistake rather than you making a good play. Even if you play it right, but you're right here, they have to make a mistake rather than you coming in from the side and having a flank on them. Don't know why Leona's doing your monster camps. Oh, team gets caught out. You can utilize pings more to help your teammates. Keyword help them, not harass them. When using pings, don't directly try to ping on top of your teammates. Try to ping where the enemies are. So then your teammates don't feel attacked. So they just get raw caught out. Ashar sets that up. Malzahar probably should just block the Ashar. You guys might as well wait for the Senna to come up before you team fight. No reason to force it. You could even give up turret if you need to. You're pretty much full build at this point. Hourglass against the enemy team I don't think would be bad. They have a lot of different abilities. For like if Kindred puts her E on you and she's about to pop it. Or if Nasus withers you and is going all in. Against all those things, Hourglass is really nice. It also gives you time to get your Q back off cooldown. Hourglass is always a solid item once you're a little bit tanky. It's one of the best tank items in the game, realistically. Nice, you're doing the flank thing. Just come up behind and it's a free kill. Thresh shouldn't be there. Don't throw out your... So here, I'd even say this was too early to throw out a Q. Why? You can... It's like a triangle. You can get here sooner. You're taking the wide angle. He's not... Now, if he was on Mobies, it'd be different, but he's already in combat. Since he's in combat, he loses the movement speed. I would have ran him down a little bit, take the cutoff angle, or if he tries to run straight away from you, wait till he's up against this wall. Once he's right here, then you throw the Q. Why? Because he can't move back around this way fast enough. He can't move this way fast enough. He can't move this way fast enough. He can't juke anywhere except for here, so you just throw it centered like this, and it's guaranteed. So here, I would just say... You've thrown it a little on the early side, but at the very least, you still put it in the right spot, which is good. Nice job. Immediately after getting a pick, look for the next best objective, or for the best possible objective you can take. And Dragon was definitely it, since you already had Inhib. If Inhib was up, you would take this first, then Dragon. Now you guys should just group on Nasus, shove out bot lane. I think doing Baron here would be a little bit on the greedy side. There's just no need to force it because they can come up 4v5, try to fight you on Baron, and if you miss Smite, they get Baron, and if your teammates mess up, they get Baron and you all die. So I do like this play. It's much safer. You don't even need to use your R. Nice patience on not wasting it. Nasus bit off way more than you could chew there. Shoving the wave. Since Nasus is dead, you guys could fight 4v4 under turret with your R if you land it on 2 or more people. Vex can't stand there, especially right when you see Ashe mid. This is just a free setup. Yep, you land the Q, R, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You see how irrelevant turrets are in the late game? Even squishy Malzahar. That dude's got 1 health item, if you don't count Doran's Ring. And he took 2 turret shots after you warmed it up. You took 1 or 2 turret shots, which each consecutive turret shot does like 25-30% more damage. He took 2 heated up shots, and he still got over half health. Turrets are pretty irrelevant in the late game. As long as you have at least 1 more champion than they have, having 1 more champion is more valuable than fighting under a turret, generally. Only exception is if they're just outrageously tanky. That's the only exception. Oh, it's like maybe a full health Scion type of thing. Nice, nice, nice. Ashe is gonna get you. Let's look at the thought process here. You don't have your R. You land the Q. You probably just kited back too far this way. You probably just didn't take Ashe into account because there's no reason to stand behind her. You had your ignite anyways. We didn't need to get behind her for extra auto attacks. If she would have just pressed R, which I think is up, she would have lived regardless. But yeah, we just basically pathed into the Ashe there. She gets off lots of slows. All right, we'll speed this bad boy up. Your teammates get destroyed because you're not there to tank for them. Your team's relatively low damage, and you're the only true tank on the team. Which is funny because you have Sork shoes, you goofball. You didn't go for plated or merc jets, you went straight for Sorks. I will say, Sorks or tier 2 boot rush items are generally for junglers who win the 1 versus 1 matchup. So that way they can run down the enemy jungler. Like a Fed Kindred can get Berserker Greaves. A Fed Graves can rush Berserker Greaves. A Elise can rush tier 2 boots type of situation. But Amumu, you usually don't see it because it's usually best to just get Sunfire Aegis Rush for more damage output and faster clears. I'm a little surprised to see tier 2 boot rush. And I get it. All of your abilities do magic damage, but it's not that type of magic damage. It's not substantial enough to really justify Sork shoes in my opinion. Now if you're playing Amumu full AP, then sure, but you're definitely far from full AP. You're kind of building like bruiser AP. And the highest value boots, if you're going a bruiser or tank build, is never Sork shoes, ever. Never, ever, ever. Like whenever you see a champion going bruiser, it's almost always just Merc Treads plated steel caps. It's never really an offensive boot type. The only reason Garen does it is because he gets a direct benefit for his spin for the attack speed. Because it's just the value plated steel caps and Merc Treads give are absurd. Your team isn't here. This is just a weird spot to be standing in. While Malzahar and Jax are in base, we just shouldn't be up this far. Ashe could RU, Thresh follows up. This is just unnecessary. Your whole win con as a Amumu is 5 versus 5 team fight, so you want to look to set that up any way possible. Being up this far while your teammates aren't here isn't setting up a team fight. It's just another situation where you're putting yourself at risk of dying, like when you randomly walk to grab the wave when there's 2 of them here type of situation. That's what this feels like, where it's like you're kind of on autopilot. You're just there. The best thing you could do while you're waiting for your teammates is to farm. If you're waiting for a teammate to leave base, just take a camp or 2. It's the best thing you can do. Or take Scuttle Crab if the enemies aren't on it. That's good, nice as well. So we're in a really bad spot here. We don't really want to follow this up because we're still missing Malzahar. Even if we go in, I think you R'd way too early there. On Amumu, the golden rule is if you can't hit 2 people with your R in a real team fight, it's not a good R. If it's only hitting 1 person in a 5 versus 5, it's a bad R. It's a bad egg. So here, once you queued in, you needed to walk past this target, or your other option is to wait for your Q to come up again, kite back, then Q in, then R. Those are your 2 options, but you don't want to just R this guy. Walk past him or wait for your Q to come up again, then go back in. So I guess we do get 2 people, but she wasn't on you when you did it, so a lot of your damage doesn't initially connect. So I guess you did technically get 2, but I saw the possibility for a lot more than that in this situation. Holy crap, you're doing a lot of damage though. It's not quite enough. Malzahar just got to the fight. Right as you were dying, he just got here. It was just too soon. I think if you were more patient with your R, you guys might have just straight up won this fight. Or the only other thing you could have done is just sacrifice the Leona because she's being a goofball. Malzahar and the Senna end up winning it because they're so big. On the downside, we've been bleeding a lot of shutdown gold, which is letting the enemies back into the game. when you're in the driver's position, because you're fed and your team's fed, you never want to take coin flippy fights or coin flippy positions. What you play around are objectives. Dragon spawns in, you show up, you fight. Only Baron's up, you try to set up a pick, then you do Baron. But random fights pushed up on the map around no objectives, we need to try to avoid that as much as possible. So now that Baron is done, you would go to Dragon. Dragon's yellow, that's 10 seconds or less. You need to get over there immediately. Your team's backing off. You need to be wary of these two entrances here. That's where they're going to be coming from. Even if it's Drag Soul, oftentimes it's not worth killing yourself for, because that can let the enemies get an inhib. So just keep that in mind. Just play it slow. Don't let them get on you. Your team kind of screwed you over by doing what they did. You can look for the Q smite. It's a little risky because once again, if you die, yeah, I have no clue why Leona did that because she doesn't have smite. That was kind of weird. That's too soon. Your team's not here. Even if that Q connected, it's not going to do anything meaningful because Jax and Senna aren't there, and Malzahar's pretty far behind you as well. This is why Amumu plays better from flanks than he does from forward, since his Q is a gap closer. Malzahar's not that far behind you, but if you landed your Q, he's so far away, it's hard for him to follow it. But instead, if he was, let's say he was where you are, and then you came from the side, or if he was slightly closer, it'd be much better. Look for the Kindred. Your Q's on cooldown. You walk up, get the 3-man R. That's huge. This is when Hourglass would be really, really nice, especially since they have an Ashe. Just being able to get her off of you. Dang. So yeah, we basically just engaged, and we didn't have our Qs up because we missed them. And Jax isn't in the fight. Yeah, that's rough. It's also one of the downsides of going Sorkshu Amumus. You're not that tanky. If you're looking at your damage recaps, I assume it says Ashe is doing like over half your health each time. And they are triple AD with the Ashe, Kindred, and Nasus. Thrush does mixed damage, but it's not enough damage to really be a huge decision maker. Force of Nature is a decent item. If you went for Merc Treads, you wouldn't even really have to get Force of Nature. You could have gone for another armor HP item like a Randuin's or maybe a Dead Man's instead. But since you haven't built any magic resist, it's a good idea since Vex has the Sork shoes. Merc Treads, I believe, give around 25 magic resist. Yeah, 25. Sork shoes penetrate 18. So by Jax having Merc Treads, completely blocks out her Sork shoes plus extra. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like Sork shoes, they're a nice early item rush for a true kind of magic damage burst champion. But in terms of for tanking and team fighting, they're not great. Because by that time, Nasus has magic resist, Thresh has magic resist, and if Ashe has magic resist, like the only ones who don't right now is Kindred and Vex, and they could get some if they needed to. Your teammates are over there. This is a really tough spot to be in as a Amumu. You never really want to be split like this. You need to play this very slow, figure out where the enemies are at. You need to try to ping your teammates to group up if you could. Or ping them where to go. Since you already have mid inhib, you'd want to go top or bot. I guess if they're already top, then you just go top with them. You and Malzahar are the two people who aren't there, and they're technically three who were. Maybe Jax wants to split. I think that's a bad idea. Nothing really beats Nasus in a 1 versus 1 split push fight. Not even a Fiora, Master Yi, or Jax. So Jax shouldn't really be split pushing. Nasus will eat him alive. Nice flank. I like it. You could throw out Q, smite minion in midair if you wanted to, or just smite minion then Q here. That's fine. Or you could try to run past them. The only thing I don't like about trying to run past minions here if you do want to engage is their team's probably nearby and Jax isn't here. So this engage is a little on the dicey side. You've already like nearly died, but nice triple R. Team goes in. Senna's absolutely fed. One Nasus Q. I think your team's just going to be able to clean up. Senna is giving so much value right now. But once again, this is the issue with building Amumu Sork shoes is you're just not tanky in team fights. You're not getting the benefits of tenacity, and you're not getting the benefits of the massive damage reduction on plated steel caps. You just die so fast. It might be nice because you're doing slightly more damage in ganks and doing things around level 6. But once you're team fighting, it's just really not a great boot to have. Frozen Heart's an okay option. I think Hourglass would have been equally as good or possibly better. Definitely just set up the dragon, play around your teammates. Ideally, you shouldn't even be showing yourself here. Amumu's kind of like fiddlesticks. You never really want the enemies to know where you are because you always have that threat option of Q into R. So for example, if the enemy saw your teammates here, if you could be in this bush, that would be a massive positional advantage for a flank. But now that they know you're here, they know exactly where to move to avoid your engage. Definitely fight for the Drag Soul. If Vex throws out an R, you should block it. Don't let it hit your teammates. Same thing if it was like a Morgana snare. If you could tell it's going to hit your teammate, you should block it. Kind of sucks because we're not that tanky, so we might just die from it. Plus, we don't have Merc Treads. Leona doing Leona stuff. Jax isn't here. Yeah, I guess we just needed to wait. He does have TP, though, supposedly. I don't know why he's not doing that. I think he could TP to Malzahar guys there. Massive Leona R, going to the Q. Ooh, that's perfect, actually. I was going to say that. Since they're all so close, you need to move a little bit, and that's exactly what you did. You Q'd, then you stepped away. They're still well within your circle, but you're closing the gap to Ashe. This is a Quadra R, I assume. Yep, 4-man R. Beautiful. That's the type of movement I want to see on every single teamfight R. If you do that on every single Amumu teamfight R, you'll be winning more games immediately because his Rs are game winners. That was just really preemptive. If you have time and space, there's no reason to chunk out a Q like that. So 2 things. Number 1, think about walls and turrets. Here's the wall, right? If you're right here, it's a tougher thing to shoot because she has multiple ways she can juke, right? If you took a half a step this way and then just queued out straight, she has nowhere to juke to. Or if you just threw it slightly more this way, she would have to juke right. But I would just take a half step this way, throw Q out centered, and she's done. You threw it at a really weird angle like you were trying to predict a flash. Always take walls and turrets into account. People don't realize how bulky they actually are. A lot of people don't realize when you're trying to dodge skill shots and you walk or run through this area, you're just guaranteeing it landing because you have nowhere meaningful to juke to it in a timely manner. You just get pooped on. Pill back on the Nasus. That's the right move here. Just pill for the Senna. She's big. Even though they get Dragon, they should lose off this. You guys should just rush down their base. That's why Drag Soul's not as important as people think it is. Oftentimes the game ends before it, and even if you get it, if the enemy team ends up getting Eldar Dragon, Eldar is infinitely better than Drag Soul. The main things I would say is don't be greedy for Sork Shoes on Amumu unless you're going to play in full AP, and full AP Amumu sucks right now. The second thing I would say is try to use your R when it's up. You don't want to look to recall when your R's up. Third thing is on team fights, really look to land meaningful multi-target Rs and don't be afraid to move a little bit off of your initial target that you stunned with your Q. Because if you've stunned them with your Q, that means you're already on top of them and you can move a little bit away from them and they'll still be within your R. There's a few fights you didn't do that. There's a few fights where you did. Other than that, don't throw out your Q too soon, especially if you have time and space to run them down. None of these people really juked out a Q at any given point, but you'll play against players who are able to juke Qs. And in those situations, by running them down, you close the distance because they're juking. And you're also setting up a better Q based on the terrain, like the walls, turret placements, that type of stuff. So I think that pretty much covers everything. I could think of on the top of my head. But overall, pretty solid. If you play just like this and don't even do anything I said, I could see you getting to gold. If you implement everything I said, I could see you easily getting past gold. Best of luck, man.